All right. Hey, how you doing, guys? Welcome to another edition of Mr. Bell's Math, or Mr. Bell's 6th grade math. Anyway, we're going to talk about today rates, okay, and unit rates. So make sure you're taking your Cornell notes. Make sure you're listening carefully, okay? Let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about rates, as I mentioned, and a rate is a comparison of two quantities with different units. Now, that may sound a little odd, but you use them all the time already. So some examples of typical rates that we have are miles in hours, miles and gallons, cost per any item, if it's cost per gallon or, a cost per pound. Those are all rates. So like tomatoes, if you go to the grocery store with your parents and you buy tomatoes and you buy, 6 tomatoes for $4.50, then you're trying to find a cost per each. How much is one tomato cost? Or if you're trying to, buy candy and you're in the candy store and they sell it by the pound, you buy 2 pounds of Juji fruits and, you want to find out how much it costs per 1 pound. So those are all rates, okay? So here I have an example. It says Chris drove 107 miles in 2 hours. This can be expressed as the rate shown to the right. And here's the rate. The rate is 107 miles in 2 hours. Notice that the units of the rate are different, okay? You have miles and you have hours. All right, so let's look. That's all the rate is. And it's shown as a division problem because later this is going to be important, and I'm going to show you exactly why here in a couple slides. Alright, so let's look at this problem here. I got Shauna is at the grocery store comparing two brands of juice. Brand A costs $3.84 for a 16-ounce bottle, and then brand B costs $4.50 for a 25-ounce bottle. So we're actually going to be comparing the two different types of juice. Alright, but we can't just compare a 16-ounce bottle to a 25-ounce bottle. We have to have the same units, okay? So it says to compare the cost, Shauna must compare prices for equal amounts of juice. How can she do this? Well, this is one way we can do it, all right? And I'm going to show you how. So we have a table, and we're going to go ahead and complete the table. So for 16 ounces, it costs $3.84. If we divide both 16 and 384 by 2, well, that takes us down to 8 ounces of juice for $1.92. And then we can divide the 8 by 2 and get 4, and we can divide the $1.92 by 2 and get 96. All right, so I'm at 0.96 for 4 ounces of juice. And then I can divide again by 2, and that gets me 2 ounces of juice, and that gets me 48 ounces, 0.4, or 48 cents rather, 48 cents for 2 ounces of juice. And then I can go on again and divide by 2, and that gets me 1 ounce of juice, and that gives me 24 cents. Okay, so brand A for 1 ounce of juice costs 24 cents. Brand B, however, I can't divide by 2 because it's 25. I have to divide by a different number. Well, I can divide by 5. All right, and I can divide $4.50 by 5. So $4.50 divided by 5 is 90 cents. Okay? And then I need to divide again because I still don't have same units. Right here I'm talking about 5 ounces. Over here I had nothing, it was 5 ounces. So now I'm going to divide by 5 again. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 90 divided by 5 is not 45 is what I had. That's 90 divided by 2. Hold on 1 second. 0.9 divided by 5 is 18. So 18 cents. 18 cents per ounce. Okay, so now I have two similar, let's use blue here. I got 1 ounce and 1 ounce, so they're the same. Okay, that's the equal amount of juice. 1 ounce of brand A juice costs 24 cents for an ounce, and then 1 ounce of brand B costs 18 cents. So obviously the better cost is brand B. All right, so and that kind of brings us to a unit rate because that's essentially what we just did was figured out how much it costs for 1 unit of that particular item. So, and that's what gets us into our next slide. So a unit rate is a rate in which the second quantity is 1 unit. Okay, the bottom number in the fraction is 1 unit. When the first quantity in a unit rate is an amount of money, the unit rate is sometimes called a unit price or a unit cost. Okay, and we'll talk about that more. So here's a couple examples, and this is how they get from a rate to a unit rate. So Gerald pays $90 for 6 yoga classes. What is the cost per class? So whenever you see it written like that, the cost per class, that means the cost is going to be your top number and the class is going to be the bottom number. All right, so use the information in the problem to write a rate. We got $90, that's the cost, and 6 classes. All right, so it says to find the unit rate, divide both quantities in the rate by the same number so that the second quantity is 1. So when we're talking about the second quantity, we're talking about classes here. Now, to get classes to 1, I would just divide by 6, and that's what we did. All right, so then I divide 90 by 6, and I get 15. So the cost is $15 per 1 class. Okay, and that's what it says. Gerald's yoga classes cost $15 per class. Here it says the cost of 2 cartons of milk is $5.50. What is the unit price? So we're talking about cartons of milk, or the cost per gallon, or cost per unit of 1. So I have $5.50 for 2 cartons, okay, cost per item, and then I want to divide by 2. In order to get this 2 cartons to 1 carton, I have to divide by 2. So I divided by 2, divided the top by 2, 550 divided by 2 is 275, so it's $2.75 per 1 carton. And then the last example here, it says a cruise ship travels 20 miles in 50 minutes. How far does the ship travel per minute? Okay, now this kind of goes against what you want to do, because typically you want to put the bigger number on the bottom. Well, no, I guess not. This is going to be a bigger number on the bottom because I'm traveling 20 miles and I want to find out how far I travel per minute. All right, how many miles per minute? So minute's going to go on the bottom. I travel 20 minutes, all right, in 20 miles in 50 minutes. So I have 20 in over 50. Okay, and this does go against what you're trying to say, because you're not going to want to divide 20 by 50, but that's what's going to happen. Because I want to get this denominator here, or this rate, to have a bottom number of 1. So I have to divide 50 by 50 to get the 1. That means I have to divide 20 by 50. So what this is going to look like when you're doing your division is 20 divided by 50. Okay, you're going to say, oh, I can't do that. Well, yes, you can. Add a decimal, add a 0. Your decimal goes up here. 50 will go into 200 4 times. Okay, so 0.4 is going to be your answer, and that's exactly what it says right here. Okay, let's look at one other example. So here it says, at a summer camp, the campers are divided into groups. Each group has 16 campers and 2 cabins. How many cabins are needed for 112 campers? Okay, so now we're going to be increasing our rate. We want to find out how many campers we can put, first of all, in 1 cabin, and then we want to find out how many cabins are needed for 112 campers. Okay, so I'm going to show you these 2 examples, and then I might kind of branch out and show you my own little example. So here it says find the unit rate. How many campers per cabin? And I like this idea. This is probably the better idea. So I have 16 campers for 2 cabins. To get this to 1, I have to divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So then I divide the 16 by 2. That means I need 18 campers for every, 8 campers for every cabin. Okay, 8 campers for every cabin. So it says here, if I want 112 campers and I have 8 campers per cabin, then I just divide. All right, and I'll show you. I would divide 112 by 8. All right, 8 will go into 11 1 time. That's 8. And that would be 3. Bring down the 2. 8 will go into 32 14 times. Okay? So you get 14 cabins needed for 112 campers. All right? And like I said, while I like that method, I do it a little bit different. Okay? Because this makes just more sense to me. But let's look at this next part of the example. So here it says you can use equivalent rates. So if I have 16 campers per 2 cabins, how many cabins will I need? And how I would write this is I would say 16 over 2, okay, and then I have 112 campers, but I don't know how many cabins I need. So what can I multiply? Since this number is getting bigger, since this number got bigger, I had to multiply 16 times something to get 112. So in this case, it says 7. So if I multiply 16 times 7 to get 112, then I must multiply 2 times 7 in order to get how many cabins I need. And of course, 2 times 7 is 14. Okay, so, but the variation that I put on this, all right, the variation that I put on this, let me see here. All right, let me just write. Okay, so I will find the unit rate. That's my goal. I want to find the unit rate. So I say 16 campers for 2 cabins. I want to divide both these by 2. Okay, and that gives me 8 campers per 1 cabin. And then I'll rewrite it, because to me it's easier to work with the unit rate, and I'll show you why. Okay, I want to find out how many campers. All right, if I have 112 campers, where's my pointer tool? I'm going from 8 to 112, and then I want to multiply that by the same number. So kind of what I did over here. All right, except I'm using a smaller number, so it just works better for me, I guess. Okay, so you can divide the 112 by 8. All right, which gave me, what did it give? No, wait, 8 will go into 11 one time. That's 8. That's 2, 3 rather, excuse me, and 2, so that's 14. All right, which is basically the same thing, except here I got 7. Just dividing by a 16 was bigger. So I got 14. So if I multiplied this times 14, then I'm going to multiply this times 14, and then 1 times 14 is easily figured out as 14. So 112 campers per 14 cabins. All right. Rates are easy. Don't let them be any difficult than they have to be. All right. Go ahead and answer the questions, and I'll see you in class.